"You can't manipulate my mind anymore," I said. Ethan actually chuckled. "Manipulate you? Come on, Noah. I only pull those tricks at gatherings. You're just being overly suspicious," I told our parents after classes. Ethan put on this whole baffled act. He presented his actual assignments and claimed the notes were for a school project. He was so convincing with his lies. Our parents completely fell for it. They always sided with Ethan, but things got much worse after that. At dinner, he'd slip in certain phrases to make Lily feel exhausted so she'd go to bed early, letting him take her share of dessert. He'd make me forget things I was upset about with subtle hand movements during our talks. The most terrifying part was not knowing what else he'd erased from our minds. If I refused his tasks, he'd convince me I'd already agreed to them. When Lily caught him sneaking out, he'd erase her memory of seeing him. We started jotting everything down to keep track, but even then there were odd blanks. One Friday night, I woke up to find Ethan sitting on my bed, swinging a small flashlight in front of my face. "You're feeling drowsy, Noah. So very drowsy," he murmured. I bolted upright. "Stop it. I'm awake. I know what you're up to." He didn't even flinch at being caught. "You're imagining this. By tomorrow, you won't recall a thing, just like all the other times." That's when I realized how often he'd probably done this. I shared everything with Lily the next day. She panicked and tore her room apart. Under her bed, she found a disturbing audio device with hours of Ethan's voice, instructing her to hand over money and forget things. We began piecing together all the moments we'd lost. Arguments that ended with us apologizing for no reason, agreeing to things we despised, blank spots after spending time with Ethan. We couldn't tell our parents again, they'd just believe him. So we contacted Aunt Sarah, Mom's sister, and a child welfare worker. Lily was sobbing during the call. Aunt Sarah arrived that same day while Ethan was at his job. She made our parents listen as we presented everything. The police arrived within an hour. They uncovered disturbing items in Ethan's room, books on subtle persuasion, recordings of us sleeping while he spoke, and journals detailing every time he'd tampered with our thoughts. The officer called it assault. He called it abuse. Ethan tried to claim it was all for a school project, but the police found shocking online posts where he'd bragged about controlling us. He'd shared actual videos of Lily under his influence, doing humiliating things, or so we believed. Because that's when I saw something so horrifying, my entire body shuddered. The laptop displayed Lily in her sleepwear, sitting on her bed with vacant eyes. Ethan's voice came through, steady and composed. "You deserve to be disciplined for disrespecting me. Repeat it." Lily's lips moved robotically. "I deserve to be disciplined." The timestamp at the bottom twisted my gut. Last month, when she was bedridden with a supposed virus for 3 days. Officer Thompson quickly shut the laptop, but not before I saw Lily crying in the video, still chanting those terrible words. My sister's empty stare seared into my mind. Thompson glanced at me with concern, then back at the screen. Through the window, I saw Ethan's car roll into the driveway. He stepped out carrying his work bag, likely expecting a typical evening. The moment he spotted the police vehicles, he froze. His bag slipped from his shoulder, crashing to the ground. It split open, revealing several pendants on chains and a notebook labeled Techniques Workplace in his precise handwriting. Our eyes locked through the glass. For a split second, something flashed across his face. Fear, defiance. Then his expression turned blank like he'd flipped a switch. Officer Thompson was already heading outside. Ethan squared his shoulders as Thompson approached. Neighbors began emerging from their homes, phones in hand. Mrs. Patel from next door was filming everything. Ethan noticed the cameras and stood taller. "My brother has always been envious of me," Ethan declared loudly enough for all to hear. His voice carried the same calm authority he used in his sessions. "Ask our parents about his behavior after our uncle passed. He fabricates stories for attention." Mom, seated at the kitchen table, suddenly clutched her head. "Oh no," she whispered. "The migraines. I always had migraines after our family discussions." Her face paled as the truth hit her. He called them family discussions, said we needed to connect better after. She trailed off, pressing her hands to her temples. Dad stared at a document he'd pulled from his files. His hands trembled. "This agreement. I signed this agreement giving Ethan my car for his birthday. I don't recall signing it." He looked at us, confusion and dread mixing on his face. "I thought I chose to give it to him because he was excelling in school, but I don't remember deciding that." Lily had been upstairs packing a bag. She came down clutching her stuffed rabbit, the one she'd had since she was 4. "There's another device," she said softly, "under my bed. It matches the one the police took." Her voice broke. I can't sleep in that room. He was there while I was asleep. Can I stay at Aunt Sarah's, please? I looked between my shaken parents and my terrified sister. Mom was still gripping her head, and Dad kept staring at that agreement like it held all the answers. Lily needed someone with her, but leaving our parents alone felt wrong too. I'll go with Lily. The decision spilled out before I fully processed it. Lily grabbed my hand, squeezing tightly. As we went upstairs to pack, I heard Mom in the bathroom. The door was shut, but her sobs echoed clearly. Each one tightened my chest. I'd made my choice, but guilt weighed heavily. My phone buzzed with multiple notifications. Dad's boss was calling him. Lily's school sent an urgent meeting request. Ethan's theater supervisor was texting Mom, defending Ethan and calling it a misunderstanding. Dad took his work call in the hallway. I overheard him explaining his recent odd behavior. Then his voice dropped. The office event? Yes. Ethan was there. He did some demonstrations. Why? A long pause. What do you mean the Carter contract might be invalid? I was fully aware when I signed it. Another pause. Influenced? What are you saying? Emily, Ethan's girlfriend, appeared at our door as police loaded evidence into their van. She looked devastated, her face red from crying, clutching her phone tightly. She pushed past Aunt Sarah and found me in the hallway. This is unfair, she insisted, showing me her phone. Message after message from Ethan filled the screen. Messages about easing her stress, checking on her well-being, reminding her about therapy sessions. He only wanted to help people. He helped me with my panic attacks. Look at these texts. Does this sound like someone who'd harm his family? Lily appeared at the top of the stairs. He helped me with science homework, she said quietly. Her brow furrowed in confusion. He was kind, he was patient. That was real, wasn't it? Some of it had to be real. A memory struck me. Ethan in his room last week on the phone. The backup files are safe, he'd said. Cloud storage is a lifesaver. Our family shared a cloud account. We all knew the password. If Ethan had uploaded anything there, the police might not know. My phone rang. The principal's voice was tense but calm. Noah, I need to speak with your parents. News about Ethan has spread online. There's something troubling about how Ethan touched his ear and said, by the way, when Noah confronted him. That's the exact trigger from those note cards. It makes me wonder if he was checking if it still worked on his brother. We're handling issues at school, and we may need to contact Child Protective Services. Lily's counselor called next. Lily needed medication to manage her anxiety attacks. The therapist's notes from after our uncle's death were painful to read. Patient exhibits a tendency toward vivid imaginations. Creates detailed false memories as a coping mechanism. Every word felt like evidence Ethan's lawyer could use against us. The family group chat became a battleground. Ethan's lawyer had already captured everything. Old messages where I called Ethan the best brother after he helped with a project. Lily joking about being persuaded to tidy her room. Mom praising Ethan for being so responsible. Each normal family message now seemed menacing in context. I spent hours scouring Ethan's social media for proof. The court-appointed therapist called it compulsive behavior in her initial report. She noted I showed signs of obsession and an unhealthy focus on sibling conflict. That night, Lily tried watching a show to relax. Her profile picture had been changed to swirling patterns. Every profile had been altered. Ethan still had access to our streaming accounts. Such a minor detail, but Lily trembled when she saw it. 3 sleepless nights hit me hard during the CPS interview. My eyes kept shutting as the investigator asked questions. She noted possible exhaustion or substance use, despite my attempts to explain the nightmares. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ethan with that flashlight. Dad's brother called while we were at Aunt Sarah's. I heard his wife in the background. We can't have our kids around this chaos. What if it's hereditary? What if something's wrong with that whole family? My uncle, who'd attended every birthday and holiday, said he needed to protect his kids and hung up. The youth theater called about my upcoming show. The director said the family situation was disrupting rehearsals. Other parents were concerned. They were considering replacing me. My one normal activity, untainted by Ethan, was slipping away. Ethan's lawyer had a recording. In it, Mom clearly agreed to relaxation sessions for stress relief. She thanked Ethan afterward, saying she felt better. The lawyer argued this showed willing participation. How could we claim abuse when we'd asked for his help? My friend's older brother needed a recommendation for a theater program. Ethan had promised to write it. Now the brother kept texting, asking why I was ruining Ethan's life over family issues. He said I needed to stop being selfish and consider others. The investigation at Dad's work worsened. During the office event, while under Ethan's influence, Dad had shared sensitive project details. The company launched an internal review. Dad might lose his job, all because he'd allowed Ethan's harmless demonstration to impress colleagues. Lily had a moment of clarity at the pharmacy. She suddenly distinguished between real memories and those Ethan had planted. She got excited, explaining to the pharmacist how she could tell them apart, but to others, she seemed erratic. The CPS worker present made a note about unstable behavior. A letter from Ethan's lawyer arrived the next morning. We were required to preserve all communications for a potential lawsuit. Every text, email, and social media post. Mom broke down again. How can we live normally when everything we say could be used against us? Emily started appearing at Lily's dance studio the next week. She'd arrive early, wearing Ethan's old theater jacket, helping set up chairs and manage the younger kids. Other parents found her charming and helpful. They didn't notice her using the same calm, deliberate tone Ethan used in his sessions. Lily came home from practice looking dazed and tired, unable to explain why Emily's presence unsettled her. During a family talk about Lily's therapy options, Mom insisted Ethan was there when we decided Lily needed help after a bullying incident. Dad swore Ethan was at work. I recalled it happening at breakfast, not dinner. We argued for an hour over a conversation we each remembered differently. Our certainty turned us against each other instead of Ethan. My old diary surfaced in a box Mom was sorting. Page after page praised Ethan. One entry from 2 years ago made my stomach churn. Ethan is the greatest brother. I want to be just like him when I grow up. He always knows how to solve everything. The handwriting was mine, but I had no memory of those feelings. The court-appointed therapist added it to her file on our complex family dynamics. At a family dinner, my 7-year-old cousin Ava began chanting during dessert. Ethan never did anything bad. Ethan never did anything bad. The rhythm matched Ethan's session cadence perfectly. When Aunt Sarah asked where she learned it, Ava just smiled and ate her ice cream. Our neighbor, Mrs. Patel, shared her security footage reluctantly. It showed Ethan visiting our house at 3 a.m. multiple times over months. We couldn't explain why we never noticed without sounding paranoid. Every attempt to describe Ethan's tactics made us seem more unhinged. The family court. Mediator treated our claims as avoidance. She focused on how Mom and Dad's grief after our uncle's death affected their parenting. The discussion shifted from Ethan's manipulation to our parents' struggles. They mandated family therapy, which Ethan would eventually join. I remembered the cloud account password while at Aunt Sarah's. Lily's birthday reversed. I'd helped Ethan set it up years ago. My hands shook as I logged in before his lawyer could block access. Hidden among family photos was a folder labeled Training Exercises Others. My throat tightened as I opened it. A theater friend from Ethan's job had posted cast party videos online. I watched them frame by frame. In one, during a supposed theater warm-up, Ethan's hand gestures matched his control patterns exactly. The actor's eyes had the same vacant look as Lily's video. They laughed, unaware of what was happening. Dr. Harper, our court-appointed therapist, reported concerns about my fixation on proving Ethan's guilt. She noted signs of obsessive behavior and possible vengeful tendencies. Her report suggested individual therapy for me. Another expert saw me as the issue, not Ethan. I tried recording Ethan's jail call to our parents. The app failed, producing only static. When I told Mom Ethan used trigger phrases, she looked at me with exhaustion, not belief. Without the recording, I seemed more paranoid, like the troubled kid Ethan described to the police. Lily's trauma therapist required both parents for her disclosure session about the manipulation. I spent the afternoon alone at Aunt Sarah's, preparing for my deposition, while Lily shared her truth. I paced the empty house, imagining her words, hoping they'd believe her. Dad's colleague Rachel saw the office event demonstration. She witnessed Dad share sensitive information while influenced. But when HR suggested she focus on her own work, she chose job security. Her son attended Lily's school. She couldn't risk involvement. Mom noticed Emily wearing her signature perfume. Then came the mannerisms. The way Emily tilted her head while listening. How she touched her neck when thinking. Even her laugh mimicked Mom's. When Mom mentioned it to Dad, he called her paranoid. Ethan's gaslighting continued through Emily. Ethan's lawyer offered a deal through ours. If we publicly called Ethan's practices a misunderstood therapy method and dropped all abuse claims, he'd drop the defamation suit. They framed it as generous. We refused, knowing it would erase our experiences. Days later, Lily's school counselor received an anonymous email with video clips. They showed Lily in sessions with Ethan, edited to remove his commands. Without his voice, it looked like Lily willingly participated in embarrassing acts. Lily's cloud password, being her birthday reversed, was typical sibling security. Ethan likely cracked it instantly. The fact he labeled his folder "Training Exercises Others" showed he organized his schemes meticulously. The school began investigating our family's issues. The cloud files revealed more than expected. Yes, Ethan kept detailed records of manipulating us, but early entries showed something else. He'd started after finding Dad's grief therapist's old persuasion books in the garage. His notes mixed therapeutic methods with control tactics. He couldn't distinguish between helping and dominating. Both lawyers learned our uncle had left diaries noting Ethan's early psychology experiments on cousins, but never reported it. Uncle didn't want to stir family tension during a tough time. His silence enabled years of escalation. The evidence was complex. Yes, Ethan systematically controlled us, but some entries showed genuine attempts to help Lily with her bullying trauma. His methods were wrong, invasive, and abusive, but some intentions seemed sincere. It made prosecution and healing harder. Aunt Sarah faced a tough choice when her professional board reviewed her role in our case. Supporting us risked her career. After 15 years helping families, they advised limiting her role to unofficial guidance. She chose her job, leaving us without our key advocate. I began documenting everything compulsively, mimicking Ethan's notebooks. Dates, times, conversations, observations. I recorded it all. Mom found my journals and sobbed. I was becoming like Ethan, using his methods to fight him. The realization sickened me, but I couldn't stop. How else could we prove his actions? I arranged a casual meeting with Emily at her study cafe. While she worked, I chatted about school and weather. When she stepped away, I saw her laptop. An email draft was open, titled "Ethan's Methods for Dance Kids." My blood froze. The cloud account revealed our darkest find. Videos of Ethan practicing persuasion on himself from 3 years ago. Early clips showed genuine interest in self-improvement and anxiety management. But the shift was clear. Self-help turned into control tactics. We watched him lose himself to the same methods he used on us. Ethan's college roommate reached out via social media. He said Ethan helped with his sleep issues, but demanded $5,000 for his story about Ethan's nighttime sessions. We couldn't pay, and it would discredit his testimony anyway. Another dead end. Between the roommate's demands and Lily's therapy, I missed my prosecutor meeting. They labeled me uncooperative in their files. One missed appointment, and I was unreliable. The system meant to protect us recorded every misstep as proof of our instability. Legal costs piled up. Mom and Dad considered a second mortgage, while Ethan's jail account grew from online supporters who saw him as a misunderstood psychology enthusiast. His account received donations from strangers who read about the family ruining a promising therapist. The confrontation happened at Ethan's favorite cafe. I hadn't planned it. Seeing him there with his lawyer during a supervised release, years of suppressed rage exploded. I stood, spilling my drink, and listed every harm he'd caused. Diners filmed my outburst. By night, the video was viral online, with comments defending the polite young man harassed by his unstable brother. Mom lost her library job the next Monday. The board president, whose son worked with Ethan at the theater, cited the situation disrupting workplace harmony. Mom had worked there 8 years, helping kids with books and programs. Now she was jobless because of Ethan's influence. We moved to Aunt Sarah's while Ethan's supporters protested outside our home. They held signs reading "Free Ethan" and "End the Witch Hunt." Lily couldn't walk to school without passing people who saw her abuser as a victim. We were trapped while Ethan gained sympathy. Grandma called me crying one Tuesday. "He's still my grandson," she sobbed. "This is destroying me, Noah. Can't you forgive him?" For the family, her health had worsened since Ethan's arrest. She was torn between her grandchildren, and the stress was breaking her. Another victim of Ethan's actions. My research into Ethan's tactics led to his theater coach, Miss Lopez, being questioned for enabling his behavior. She'd allowed Ethan to lead calming exercises before shows, thinking it eased stage fright. Now she was suspended. Her 8-year-old daughter asked why Mommy couldn't direct plays anymore. I'd helped ruin an innocent woman's career. Miss Lopez's husband posted online about the witch hunt destroying lives. He shared photos of his daughter crying because her mom couldn't volunteer at school. Comments questioned the safety of after-school programs. The damage spread, affecting unrelated lives. I kept building our case despite seeing Ethan's mentors and friends suffer. Each piece of evidence led to more people being questioned, more reputations harmed. But stopping meant letting Ethan win, letting him manipulate again. The guilt of continuing battled the guilt of stopping. Lily found me at 3 a.m., sifting through Ethan's files. She sat beside me on Aunt Sarah's couch and asked if Ethan truly thought he was helping. The question lingered. I couldn't answer right away, wondering if his intentions started pure but twisted. Or was it always about power? At school, I stood before the assembly and admitted something I'd never voiced. After seeing Ethan praised for his persuasion skills, I'd envied his ability to control others. I'd wanted that power. The confession felt like tearing off my skin, but I needed them to see how tempting that control was. Evidence emerged that I'd ignored Lily's early complaints about feeling strange. The realization hit hard. I dismissed her, enabling Ethan's escalation. The guilt was crushing, but I had to keep going to protect her now. Ethan's lawyer argued our parents neglected his mental health after our uncle's death, forcing him to develop his own coping strategies. They painted him as a troubled youth failed by adults. The narrative shifted from abuser to victim. Everything rested on Dr. Harper's upcoming testimony about our family. She'd observed us for weeks, noting our interactions and interviewing us individually. Something felt off about Emily's accidental email display at the dance studio. Was she careless, or did she want someone to notice? The timing of Ethan's lawyer's filing during our vacation seemed too perfect. Dr. Harper's opinion would outweigh our evidence. Our future hinged on her seeing through Ethan's manipulations. I watched Emily infiltrate Lily's dance studio. She taught young kids calming techniques resembling Ethan's methods. Parents praised her for soothing their anxious children before performances. No one saw the threat in her gentle tone and dangling charms. The theater group split. Half saw Ethan as a creative director who eased stage fright. The other half felt betrayed, learning they'd been influenced without consent during acting exercises. Friends turned on each other, debating consent and intent. The prosecutor laid out the harsh truth. Without physical or financial harm, psychological manipulation was hard to prosecute. Ethan's actions fell into a legal gray area. We might prove his deeds but fail to secure consequences. I contacted Dad's old therapist who'd promised help. He'd seen our family's grief shatter us, how Ethan tried to fill an impossible role as emotional anchor. His testimony could add context, but he'd only provide a written statement to protect his practice. The statement revealed Dad had suspected Ethan's experiments but allowed them, thinking Ethan was happier with a purpose. Dad's guilt over enabling Ethan explained his initial dismissal of our concerns. He'd protected Ethan out of shame. Ethan's roommate agreed to share his evidence for free. He'd kept Ethan's journal as leverage after feeling uneasy. The journal detailed Ethan's final college months. Terrified of losing control, influencing more people to manage his fear of influencing, he'd trapped himself in a cycle of escalating control. Reading Ethan's desperate entries, I saw he was drowning too. Each session gave him power but isolated him further. He needed control to feel safe, but it pushed people away when they realized the truth. He'd built his own cage of manipulation and isolation. Our family made a tough choice. We'd seek legal protection while pushing for Ethan's psychiatric care. Punishment alone wouldn't stop him from harming others. He needed help for what broke after our uncle's death. It wasn't forgiveness, but recognition that jail wouldn't fix him. Ethan's deposition claimed he used legitimate therapeutic methods. His own journals contradicted him, detailing calculated control. He'd lied under oath, adding another charge. I presented our evidence without the anger I'd carried. Each document, video, and testimony was delivered calmly. Ethan watched from across the courtroom, realizing I wasn't seeking vengeance, just safety for our family and others. The judge's demeanor changed as our evidence grew. The pattern was clear. Escalating control, deliberate manipulation, no regard for consent. Ethan's lawyer tried to reframe each incident, but the volume of proof made his arguments weak. Legal momentum shifted our way. Both sides prepared for the final hearing on custody and protection orders. The community was divided between those who saw warning signs and those who enabled through silence. Local theater programs added oversight policies. Dance studios required consent for relaxation exercises. Ethan's actions reshaped community trust. Lily's recovery showed in small ways. She slept without checking for devices under her bed. She watched movies without flinching at swirling images, but she still demanded written records for every agreement. Ethan had stolen her trust in memory. Mom and Dad started counseling to address how Ethan manipulated their marriage. They uncovered conflicts Ethan had created and resolved through persuasion, pitting them against each other for his gain. Their therapist, a cult deprogramming expert, said our family resembled cult survivors. The final evidence was Ethan's own video, practicing on himself, narrating his methods. He described suppressing his guilt about controlling us. He'd convinced himself his actions were helpful, creating a cycle of self-deception that fueled worse abuse. As we prepared for the hearing, I felt the weight of our losses. Severed family ties, ruined careers, shattered innocence. Ethan had taken more than our free will. He'd stolen our trust, memories, and mental safety. Recovery would take years if possible, but we'd found strength. Lily's bravery in speaking out, Mom and Dad's willingness to face their enabling, my resolve to protect others, Aunt Sarah's careful support within professional limits. We'd survived, scarred but not destroyed. The hearing morning was cold and gray. I dressed to look mature, credible. Lily held my hand as we entered the courthouse. Mom and Dad stood with us, united for the first time in months. We were ready to face Ethan and reclaim our story. The therapist's statement arrived that morning. Dad read it aloud in the hallway, hands shaking. It confirmed Dad had raised concerns about Ethan's experiments but dismissed them as sibling bonding. Dad's face fell. He'd known something was wrong but looked away because Ethan seemed happier with purpose. Ethan's roommate appeared unexpectedly, carrying a worn journal. He'd reconsidered payment after his brother showed signs of manipulation at camp. The journal detailed Ethan's descent from self-help to control, with success rates and refinements. Each page showed his growing addiction to persuasion's power. The courtroom filled with supporters and curious neighbors. I saw parents from Lily's dance studio, theater peers, and neighbors from the arrest. Lily's friend waved before her mother stopped her, whispering sharply. The community's tension showed in averted eyes and hushed talks. Both brothers bore the toll of recent months. My nails were bitten raw. Ethan had lost weight in jail, his theater charisma replaced by sunken eyes. When our eyes met, we both touched matching childhood scars from a skateboarding accident. For a moment, he was just my brother again. The prosecutor presented our evidence systematically. Each session documented, each manipulation listed. The pattern was undeniable. Grief-driven help turned into systematic control. Ethan's own records damned him, showing deliberate escalation and no regard for consent. A theater colleague testified hesitantly. She knew about Ethan's calming sessions, but assumed families consented to his psychology project. Her voice broke when she found her name in his notes. She thought her decision to give him a starring role was hers. The judge called a recess when Ethan began hyperventilating during journal authentication. The handwriting expert confirmed every entry was Ethan's. The psychological profile showed someone who couldn't separate helping from controlling. Ethan's breakdown wasn't an act, it was his worldview collapsing. In the bathroom, Ethan's lawyer spoke quietly. He said Ethan believed persuasion kept our family together after our uncle's death. In Ethan's mind, every session was love. The lawyer's own brother had control issues. He defended Ethan because he saw the thin line between protection and domination. Lily testified remotely, detailing the recordings, sessions, and stolen memories, but also Ethan teaching her math, walking her to school during bullying, making her favorite snacks on tough days. Her confusion about which brother was real broke the courtroom. The judge's questions were sharp. She asked Ethan about his methods, intentions, and understanding of consent. Lily's dual brother reality makes Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde seem tame. One brother makes snacks, the other erases memories, and she can't tell which is true anymore. Ethan's responses revealed his delusion. He still believed he'd been helping, that our resistance caused the pain.